to our full council meeting on Monday the 27th of July, and you will notice that there's a new layout. And this is purely because in a year's time we're going to have to make room for another councillor, so we were looking at how we're going to organise the tables and make that work. And so one of the ideas we had is that the mayor, deputy mayor, and also the town clerk would sit up here, and so there's enough room for the town councillors around the table. And so this is us trying it and see if it works, if it's helpful, and also if the owl picks us all up. So we welcome feedback. Great. So just to let everybody know, this meeting will be live streamed through the council's Facebook page. Persons attending will be captured on film, except when seated in the public seating area, with the exclusion of the first row. Any speech may be picked up and broadcast. A fire alarm drill is not planned, so in the event that the alarm sounds, please make your way out of the building using either of the staircases to the meeting point in the red line yard and await further instructions. Councillors are reminded that to avoid the risk of being seen as predetermined or biased, they should consider all the debate prior to deciding on how to vote on items of business. Urgent items for information only, can be brought to the attention of the committee at the discretion of the chair at the end of the meeting. No decision can be taken on items not detailed in the published agenda. And please ensure that all our mobile phones are either turned off or to silent. So businesses to be transacted. Point one is apologies for absence.
Councillor Coleman for personal reasons and Councillor Weeks for work reasons.
So do I have a proposal? Councillor Ireland, seconder, Councillor Cummings, all in favour? And that is unanimous. Okay, point two, declarations of interest. To receive disclosures of interest from councillors on matters to be considered at the meeting. The disclosure shall include the nature of the interest. If a member becomes aware during the course of the meeting of an interest that has not been disclosed, they must do so immediately. Councillors are reminded to ensure their register of interest form is up to date. So have I got any already declaring an interest? Oh, Councillor Yelland.
Yeah, just think that's my interest in 1916, so I'm a trustee of the
Councillor Ireland is also repeating that. Councillor Neil, also the same.
Allotments.
Or allotments. Interest in allotments. And Councillor Tully, is that allotments?
Same, yeah.
Same. Okay, is that everybody? Nobody else. Okay, point three, public participation to receive questions or comments from members of the public. So do you have members of the public who would like to stand up and speak? And if we could offer a microphone, thank you, Councillor Ireland. Perfect.
Evening, everybody. I'm Sherry Heathman and I live in the Glen. Last time we came up and we were concerned about the trees that are at the back of our car park, which are looking quite dangerous, and it's already one branch has gone down on a car and smashed the windscreen. Now that's been fixed, but we have been contacting, and it is concerned that it belongs to West Devon. That only. Now we feel that they should do something about it, and I understand there are members of the council that actually belong to it. So is there any way that they can come forward now and do something about getting these trees cut back?
Yeah. No, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
would anybody like to come back on that now from West Devon Borough Council? Oh, Councillor Leach.
Yes, I think I read an email from the dedicated councillor. He was going to look into it as well, so I'm not quite sure. And I couldn't do it because a tree officer was away. Well, I left a message. He's not yet.
Okay.
But I'll check.
Okay, Okay, so we're going to chase that up. Okay, so Councillor Reach said that he did contact the tree, or attempted to contact the tree officer, he was away, but he sent the councillor an email, and he has now come back, and he hasn't yet got in touch, but Councillor Reach will chase that up.
In the actual trees, in front of the trees is all this laurel, so you can't see the trees which are at the back. Which once the laurels can be cut back, then you can see the state of the trees themselves.
Okay. So I think that detail can be expressed by Councillor Reach to the tree surgeon, and they can look at that in detail.
Could you leave us your contact details, please? Because otherwise we don't know how to pass on any feedback.
Or you can take my email, or anywhere.
Just bear with me, Lois. Mind it might be captured on video.
Yeah, if you need it afterwards or when it's done, that's fine, and then we can update you as and when we hear back from the tree surgeon about what's happening, and also if we have a date for when that person is coming, then if you're available, then that'd be great, then you could explain in detail what's what. Perfect, thank you. Have we anything else from the public?
Yes, I'm here with 2 hats on tonight.
Oh,
Double hatted. Right, I'm here as the chair of the Farford Road allotments, because I see you've got the allotments on the agenda for tonight. I have had a couple of meetings with Mike Reynolds, who's the chair of Castle Road, and we are both rather disappointed, shall I say, that the town council has written the policies and the rules and things without consulting us at all. So instead of starting off with a lovely spirit of cooperation and working together, we're being faced with a fait accompli. Also, of course, I know that once the town council agrees something, it can't be looked at for 6 months, and 6 months is a long time. So, going through your policy, at the bottom of the first page, you've got all allotment tenants are required to provide proof of insurance at the start of the tenancy agreement and annually at renewal. Once people have got their allotment, they join the National Association through their own, like us, Farford Road Association. And we sort out their membership and we sort out their insurance at the same time, because the insurance is done through the same body. This means that we get magazines, 3 magazines a year, several copies come to us for our members. We also get a seed catalogue where our members can buy seeds at reduced prices. The profit from the seeds goes towards the communal shed. It pays for the maintenance of the shed and everything that needs for the shed, and it is one way we have of raising money. So please, would you please look at that again? The second thing is water is provided at the Farford allotment site. Where water is provided, there's an additional annual charge to allotment tenants on those sites. That we have a water officer who collects the deposit of the water fees and sorts out the water bill, etc. So that is done through our water officer. I think we're the only site that has those mains water, because the others use the river. Buildings and structures. Now this is it. Oh no, sorry. The first one, water butts. Now the original documentation, I seem to remember, had something like you can have up to 3 water butts, and they must be green because 1 year to dark, etc., etc. I don't know whether you plan to change that in any way. However, over the years, some people have put in larger water units, which a couple of members complained because they were not standard, and it was against the rules. And as we know, rules are not there to be broken, rules are there to be abided by, and you can't have one rule for one and not for another. However, as we know from this summer, the climate is changing, and therefore the larger water containers linked to the pipes to our roofs that collect rainwater would be advisable. So perhaps that's something else that needs to be looked at. be erected on the allotment without the written consent of the town council. Now, when you're talking about structures, do you mean coal frames? You're going to be inundated with requests for coal frames, which are a temporary thing, so really shouldn't need anything in particular. Building structures must conform to any relevant planning conditions laid out by residents. Well, the only buildings that the allotments have is the communal shed, which is already up and not likely to be changed, and the individual sheds, which most people have inherited from on their shed, and they are a standard size. I think it's something like 6 by 8 or something like that. They're a standard size. And you don't need planning permission for a temporary structure, which is what a shed is. So, I think that's a bit of a red herring. I really don't know quite what you're referring to there, but there we go. Now then, all buildings erected with the consent must be maintained in good state of repair. Well, it's in your own interest to keep your shed in good state of repair, because otherwise if the water gets in, your stuff gets damaged. Right, and I think that was it, yes. The Allotments Act of 1950, I think it's notice to quit, I think, not a notice to quite, but there we go. Yes, I look forward to working with you, as does Mike Reynolds, and I'm sure the allotment holders in Law Street feel exactly the same. Because things have, I'm afraid to say, slid over the last couple of years under the charity, and that we have not been a happy band at all. So we're looking forward to working with the town and hoping that certain things get tightened up and the calibre, shall I say, of the allotments remains as high as we would wish it to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mrs. Gordon Webb, and I'm actually here as part of the family circle. I believe you wrote to them recently because we're having trouble with the trolleys that need to be stored somewhere in the council. I mean, we do usually use the hall 13 times a year, and the trolleys are for safety reasons, because otherwise, I for one am carrying 8 cups of hot tea around the hall at the meetings, and we're just fearful of an accident happening. So I just wondered if there's anywhere that we could probably store this little trolley. Is there not a void under the stage where we could put it?
The stage, the staging supports go crisscrossed, so it wouldn't go in there very well. It wouldn't fit
Is there
under
not
the
nowhere
stage.
that we can tuck it away in the hall somewhere?
People think that we've got lots of room here, but we really haven't. There is one cupboard that is full of our tables and chairs, and there isn't any spare room in that one when it's full. The one in the corner as you go in the doors, we've recently tidied out, and it's got all our flags and things in it now, and other cones and signs that we need to keep there, so there isn't room in there. And the caretaker store, again, we've just been tidying it out. We are short of space generally for storage. We don't
You
know
know where
where
I'm
else.
coming from, because they've seen the 2 boxes in the kitchen.
Yeah, but they are full.
I know they had kitchen things in there, you could have looked.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, if that's what it is, it exists. And also, I personally don't think you should be storing the mop and the bucket and everything else in the kitchen. I don't think it's ideal.
We have to store one there for the use of users when they're using the kitchen so they can mop up any spills.
No, I don't think you should be storing it there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so is that everything from public? Okay. So then we're going to move on to 24 members' questions. We see questions from members regarding the workings of the council. Councillor March and Councillor Earl and Councillor Cummins.
Thank you. I don't know whether all the councillors are aware, but the altarcloth in the St James's Chapel was stolen about 10 days ago. And we went to the police, and the police have said that there is no CCTV camera coverage to the front of the think that when if the CCTV is reviewed or anything is looked about extra cameras or anything else, that maybe that could be borne in mind, that actually the whole of Ford Street is not covered by any camera, because the camera is over there on the White Hart, goes that way, but it doesn't go very much that way because it's set back a little bit from those buildings. So I'd like, so there's nothing we can do. I've asked a couple of the shops around if they've got any extra in there, and there's only one that's going to look at it for me. The rest is no coverage whatsoever.
Do you know whenabouts it was stolen?
Yes, it was stolen the week last Thursday. Between 12 o'clock and 7 o'clock. 12 o'clock midday and 7 o'clock when it was locked up.
Councillor Ireland?
Thank you. Yes, just an update really. As some colleagues may already know, the new interchange station, Parkway Street Interchange Station, will open to the public on the 1st of August. So that's what's happening, and there will be a sort of event on the 31st. So just to say that, and also on the station, the issue that I raised with me by members of the public is this issue of, they say, Michael, well, there's no toilets. I'm sure colleagues trying to say have heard this. No toilets at the station. So if you get a situation which often happens where there's no train, and so you get a 2-hour break, 2 hours between trains, then people are stuck there with nothing, no toilets. So that's just my points on the station. Thank you. Madam Deputy.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. Councillor Cummins?
Yeah, as you may be aware, I emailed the councillors about the rent music situation. I wasn't expecting an answer or anything. I just wondered if there was anything that we could do to support these people. I don't know what or how, and I don't expect any answers tonight or in the next few weeks. But they've served the community well for the last God knows how many years. They bring a lot of revenue to the town, and it seems remiss of us not to be offering some form of support. I'm led to believe that a letter was written to them, but I'm not sure about that. I just wanted to raise a profile. I don't know much about them at all. I'm just aware of what good they do in the town, and we should be looking to see whether we can support them in some way.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Cummins. Councillor Rich?
Respond to them. So, probably 2 or 3 points back, I brought it to council to see if council would back the rate for any grants that they put in for. And I think the list went ahead, basically stated, yes, we'll give it a full back. What more we could do without them actually asking for a grant. They're also trying to find accommodation a few weeks back. I did put one at one place, unfortunately, that had already gone, and they are looking at another place, but I'm not quite sure if that's going to be
Councillor Hill and Councillor Young.
A year ago, I was assured that there would be some public system for us to know the activities in the town. We don't seem to have anything. There are a lot of complaints in the area I am of this last weekend, where on the Saturday the youngsters were playing the bandstand to themselves, and it was a tragedy really. They need encouragement, and nobody knew anything about it. But there's so much that the people don't know, and we would be able to give much greater support if there is somewhere there'll be told what is happening, either in this week or in this day. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually know somebody who does have a calendar of Oakhampton events and keeps updated all the time, but it's a think she's got a QR code for it, but maybe we just need to publicise that more and make sure people are more aware of it. So we'll have a look at that. I'll share that with the town clerk and see if we can make that more of a possibility and like with the town hall.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Young.
Just going to say in response to them, they did apply for most successful in getting a grant to town council recently at our in our meeting. So we drive this with support for any kind of application they make and we get applied for grants as well.
Thank you. Okay. Perfect. So let's move on to point 5, West Devon Borough Council to receive reports from West Devon Borough Councillors. So if we go Councillor Leach first, then Councillor Dexter, and then Councillor Blocky if that's okay. So Councillor Leach.
If I can get started. I send a report round to everybody, and it starts off with the local government organisation. And Councillor Dexter sent round a very good report, basically telling everybody exactly where we've been and where we're going. Not quite sure where we're going, but the complexities of what the government are now asking the districts and boroughs to go through by the 17th of August, which is to work out wards throughout this massive area, to then work out where you go to polling stations, where you have your exit when you vote. It's a massive piece of work in just a few weeks. I mean, that's as ludicrous as most everything else that's going on. I was going to say it's right, but I'll probably better not. Someone in Tavistock basically looked at this whole setup just to give some figures. Now it's based on the new authority, the area in kilometres square, population and population density per kilometre square. So Torbay area, 363 kilometres square, population 238,200, population density per metre square 906, and they're going to have 64 councillors. Plymouth 369, population 297,600, density 829. They're going to have 68 members. Exeter 610 kilometres square, population 249,500. Population density 409 people per kilometre square. Then we look at Devon Coast and country area, 5,481 kilometres square. Population 781,700 population, but the density is 143, and we're going to have 103 councils. Now, to me, that just doesn't back up at all how you can actually create an income for all roads, children's services, and all the other things that Devon County does, let alone what all the districts do. I don't know who's done the maths, but it just doesn't work for me. I think that Councillor Dexter was also put that it was agreed that President would send a letter to the new Prime Minister and new Housing Minister, which they did last week, and I have to say it was an excellent letter. It really was well written. I just hope that goes above will actually read it and then come and talk to them about these very important issues. As new stations just been mentioned, Oakhampton Castle is just for interest as of today. The castle will be open for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right through to the 4th of September. Volunteers will still recruit them each day to make sure things are okay, and they'll be having guided tours Wednesdays and weekends, which for Oakhampton is a nice big tick in the box, I think. They're also open for any ideas as to how you can open up the ticket office. And they'll give added security and also hopefully be able to make some money. They've already set precedents up in the North Houses, which is one of the big Roman forts on the Houses wall. That's now completely run by volunteers. It's a cafe shop, business centre, everything. And one of the alleys up there is this time. So I don't see why we can't find some goodies for the ticket office. Credit Road, that all started last week. I'm pretty sure there's going to cause some aggravation from the traffic that we do. But if it's finished by then, surely go back to school, it'll be well worth it. Kerrins Lane, I'm still very concerned about Kerrins Lane because it seems to have gone off everybody's radar, and I still say it's really important we get it open. So I'm still working with the planning system for the try the way frame at new local development plan. There are quite a few concerns. I think that because of how the reorganisation has been set up, so Torbay is going to take a chunk of Southampton's, previously not had a chunk of Southampton's. We, or some of us, are not quite sure why the development plan's still going forward when it's these big chunks being eaten out of it. But that's open for debate at the moment. And the only other things I put on here is showing a spotlight on Pacific heritage. I think it's come out through other ways. And also watch out about fire in the sun.
Councillor Dexter.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor Leach, as well. I just want to put something about local government reorganisation, because I'm very conscious that it's something that we, as councillors, we like, are very concerned about. That's the general population. They just want to see the services continue to deliver without any hiccups. Now, no, that's very much what West Devon and all the rest of the councils feel. But I think you've got to bear in mind that because of all the stresses, all the officers are under tremendous pressure from reorganisation. So new things may not happen the way we want them to happen, but I think they're totally focused on continuing to deliver existing services. Just to add one thing in the report, I'm not sure that did you all get my report?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, one thing you did see that the elections will be synchronised. That's all council elections will be synchronised. So presumably, I guess that your elections will be synchronised again to May 2028 rather than May 27. Is that is what follows logically? Although I've not had an official notification of that, so it might be a question you might want to ask. Another question that I can't answer is what is the effect of this on your extent of the boundaries and particularly over Hamlets, because that was originally synchronised to the elections. So perhaps you might want to answer, I can't answer that question, and I'd like to leave that for you to pursue again, although I'm sure you have. I also mentioned about the shaping of the future joint plan, and Councillor Leach has also said it does beg a few questions if we're going to start a 30-month process to go in the joint local plan with Southampton and West Devon, and what happens when Southampton doesn't exist anymore. But I think this is one of those questions that I understand the logic behind it is to set in place a planning framework that will continue into the new authorities. How that's going to work, I'm not sure. I did also talk about the conservation area appraisal, which you know about anyway, and I'm really pleased that you managed to get them to extend the deadline from the 6th of September to whatever it is in September. I think that there always was a great the planners want to get the right answer and not to hear the consultations, and they're very conscious when I asked them this was going through when will it finish, and they said in the first instance we'll extend it to take care of the bank holidays in the August. Oh, this August isn't quite far enough, but I'm really pleased about it. So the other thing I said was the Renters' Right Act, which is to extend protection, implementation and protection of private sector renters. And according to the legislation, we have to put in a lot of structure, penalties and enforcement rules. But we have to do that anyway. But I think what we're trying to put in place as well is the fact that the council does recognise the importance of landlords. We don't want landlords to, if you like, throw in the towel and just sell the houses and then people won't have any to rent. So it's a case of not being harsh, it's about being constructive and helping people who rent and have problems, and also working with the landlords to fix those problems. So that's a good thing.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Goffin.
I'm sure you're all assiduously read my report.
Yeah.
So I won't comment on that. The only thing I'm going to say about the local government reorganisation is that the government took pains to send it out on Thursday when Parliament was rising on Friday, so nobody could do anything about it for the next 6 weeks. It's all going to cost a great deal of money which had, if it had been sent to the counties for disbursement in the first place, we wouldn't be in the mess that we are now. No more on that subject. Right, Councillor Dexter and I have been looking at the traffic situation yet again, and we have come up with a cunning plan. We looked at what we had done when I was mayor, you remember, those of you who were here, and we have discovered that there is a much shorter route which can be utilised, which will save in time and money. So I would ask you to have a look at that. I did send it in, but unfortunately, by the time I fucked around, I sent it in too late for this month's meeting. But your clerk has it. I know you've been looking at it since, but I think you'll find that there might be an improvement that you haven't thought of. And my final thing is, toilets at the station, Councillor Rowland, watch this space. That's all I say. I can see one Friday.
Look forward to it.
Thank you, Councillor Goffin. So, point 5 is any. Oh, I'm sorry. So, do we have any questions for? We don't have anything from Devon County Council. Yeah, who did you use the report? No. Okay. So, point 7: questions arising from members' reports. Councillor Marsh, Councillor Richards, and then Councillor Young.
I'd like to thank the three councillors who sent in the reports, and thank you for sending them in. But I would like to just ask Councillor Dexter if he would be very careful when he mentions about the town council and our extended boundaries, because we're not taking over the hamlets.
Yes.
Turn on your mic, please.
It's more of a point of note rather than a question. I have already read that the town council elections are synchronised with the elections for the shadow authority and not with the district council elections because the district councils are being disbanded. Simple as that. So town council elections will happen next year as planned, and unless anything happens with respect to there not being, we're not having shadow elections next year, then there will be shadow elections for the new authority at the same time as the town council elections.
Okay. Castellano. Thank you. I have three questions actually. One for myself and two for Devon County. Similar actually to what Councillor Richards has just said. I was just going to ask my seven members if you can check with your electoral officer, because that was my understanding as well, that the new unitaries will have their elections in 2027, and of course there won't be a 2028 because the districts and whenever Devon County would be on the voting list. So it would be really helpful if we could get some clarification on that, particularly with assessing the budget, because it looks like we're going to have to fund our own elections out of sync. We need to be aware of it. I have two questions actually for county councillors, if I may, and I know who's not here. So my first one relates to the green flag. So Devon County put out a sort of their publicity, piece of publicity on their website, congratulating, I think, Stowe Park and somewhere else in Devon as having a green flag and making a big fuss about how wonderful it is to have two parks with a green flag award. There doesn't seem to be any comment whatsoever about Simmons Park, where we have been also awarded a green flag. So I very much appreciate it if we could ask a question as to why Devon County didn't mention Simmons Park in their publicity and their general newsletter. My second question is possibly one that I think won't get anywhere, but it's worth a go. With this new council coming out of the Devon coast and countryside, where we're going to have an awful lot of roads and no economic centre to manage and resurface those roads, I was going to ask the county councillor if he could apply any pressure to Devon County to perhaps prioritise what the roads that are going to sit within the new Our Coast and Countryside unitary, so that they are at least up to a decent standard before Devon County is disbanded, because places like Exeter, Plymouth and Torbay will have a much bigger economic centre, and they will also have, by virtue of the fact that their roads are A roads and main roads, will get sort of priority work anyway, and that there is going to be no money in this new council to be able to fill potholes or bring the roads up to a required standard. So I very much appreciate it if we could ask him if he was able to perhaps raise that county as something, and perhaps talk to his fellow county councillors that sit within this particular area. Perhaps they could do a joint piece of work, cross-party, whatever it may be, to see if the pressure can be applied to get the roads up to a decent standard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Any other comments or questions from councillors? No? Okay, so moving on to point 8. This is the adoption of minutes of committees and to receive questions from members thereon. So 8.1 is for the PNR committee. Thank you. I should like to invite members to adopt minutes of the Policy and Resources Committee meeting held on the 18th of May and the 6th of June 2026. And I'm happy to receive questions from members regarding workings and decisions made at this committee meeting. So I am could have a seconder, please. Councillor Marsh is proposing a question.
A comment and I will propose.
Okay.
Can I ask that in future the minutes, where I give my audit report, that it mentions the month, because it's not these minutes that are here, but I noticed the last minutes which are not adopt in July didn't happen. It was June that I did because it reflects the finance officer that she's up to date and again sort of thing with her reports, which is good. But also then it's a clear indication of what month I've ordered it. But that's all it is. It's not a big deal, but just to be nice to have a bit tidier.
Okay, great. And that's a proposal from Councillor Marsh and seconded from Councillor Hughes. All in favour? And that is everyone. Okay, 8.2, Parks Committee.
Can I invite members please to adopt the minutes of the Parks Committee meeting held on the 18th of May this year, and as Chairman to receive questions from members regarding the workings and decisions made at this committee meeting. Can I have a second, please?
So that was a proposal from Councillor Tolley, seconded by Councillor Ireland. And all in favour? Everybody. And for the Property Committee, I'd like to ask the members to adopt the minutes of the Property Committee meeting held on the 10th of November and 1st of December 2025, 2nd of February and 18th of May 2026. And I'm happy to receive any questions from members regarding the workings and decisions made by this committee. So I have a proposal from Councillor Fisher. Oh, I propose Councillor Fisher, second, and all in favour? That's everybody. Fantastic. Okay, so, and then point 9 is the full council meetings minutes. So, do I need to ask for people to approve these?
Or we do it separately.
Okay, so I am just in the absence of the mayor to ask if we are happy to adopt the minutes of the Town Council meeting held on the 29th of June 2026. As a proposed from Councillor Foley and seconded by Councillor Richards, all in favour? Thank you. And we'll sign them afterwards. Thank you very much. Okay, point 10, projects and consultations. So 10.1 is the local government reorganisation. So we've already talked about this a little bit. Consider the government announcement that Devon will consist of 4 unitary councils with elections scheduled for May 2027, ahead of the vesting day when the new councils begin delivering services in April 2028. So we have that in our meeting report is the map of the new structure. So do we have any comment about Councillor Cummings and Councillor Fisher? Councillor Cummings first.
Everyone's read these in quite detail. The cluster meeting that we had last week, and it was mentioned at that as well. The issues that are being raised by a number of councils throughout the country, not just in the West Country, but throughout the country, applying for judicial review. And while we were at that meeting, it was asked whether we would approach our council to see whether there is support a letter to support that method moving forward. Personally, I think it's a good idea. I know that we need to be continuing to do the work. If we don't make the challenges, then I feel that our voices will fail into insignificant. Looking across the country, there are many areas, the Lake District, Northumberland, areas of Leicestershire, Warwickshire, that are all raising the same concerns that we're raising. And I feel that we should be writing a letter. I don't know whether other councils agree or not, but that was the outcome of the conclusion on Wednesday, and I thought I'd bring it to the meeting so nothing knows nothing.
Councillor Fisher.
I haven't met anybody who likes this, but have we got a case? Because actually, if we have gone by what the government said, they can't do this because they said we couldn't split up West Devon and South Devon, and they've done exactly that. So maybe we should, in our letter, be saying West Devon could not have come up with this procedure because it goes against what they told us.
Councillor Howard.
Yeah, I mean, although we obviously can't fund a judicial review because the money that cost would be astronomical, but I mean, who has authorities, because even though it's out of their control as well, it will give them a bit of strength as well to know that as a parish council, we're not comfortable with this. To me, it seems like we've got enough show going on here. There has been something that was stipulated that needs to be done by a certain way, a certain method, which then a decision has been made which does not reflect that at all. So the incorrect process was followed. This process, procedural, a judicial review. So I would certainly support that we actually put something together, and we've also got the issue, as I said earlier, about no economic centre. We have the sparsity density, sparsity is far more expensive to deliver services to. So where the money's going to come from to deliver the services within this new council area that we're going to sit in, I really have no idea. So I'd certainly support the consent matter.
Okay. Councillor Close.
Yeah, just to clarify, the judicial review letter that was being suggested was for exactly the reasons that Councillor Fisher's alluded to. They were the same questions that myself and various other members asked. And the much smaller councils were all in favour of putting their support into the writer. They said they probably won't get listened to because some of them are only got 100 constituents. But it was a letter of strength from the group that's involved. And I think that if we don't write a letter minimum, we're failing our electorate. That's how I see it. I know that we've still got to prepare for the worst, but if we don't fight, what are we here for?
Okay. Any other comments, Councillor Richard?
Yes, I had forgotten there is something quite important that to add to what is being said. Yesterday morning I attended online the meeting of the VCSE Assembly for Plymouth, Torbay and Devon.
Which stands for?
Yeah, it's the voluntary organisations gathering together into a sort of an overarching committee for the whole of the area, Torbay, Plymouth, Exeter and Devon. Now the important point that was made on this subject during the meeting was that the Assembly itself is thinking about, it is contemplating how it would do it, but is thinking about setting up a crowdfunding opportunity in order to fight the judicial review. The reason being, as far as the Assembly is concerned, it is responsible for representing a very large number of charitable organisations in the county who actually at this moment in time depend for their revenue on the various different local authorities. And as a result of that, they are desperately concerned about, each of them is concerned about their own future and how things are going to work out. And therefore, because they do not feel they've got any form of confirmation, this has just not been written into the system, they are thinking about themselves setting up a crowdfunding operation to actually do something from a Devon perspective. And I think if that happens, then obviously all of us as individuals and maybe as organisations will be in the position to add our 10 pence to cover the costs, which as Councillor Yellen says, could be quite significant. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lynch.
Yeah, I think the feeling, and I also declaring interest, so West End, Borough Council anyhow, but I think the general feeling was a judicial review should be undertaken because of what's been said. They went completely away from the structure they insisted we had to stick to. And West End and the points they put forward was spot on what was being asked for. But when you talk about the judicial review, it's how actually independent is that? So you take it to judicial review, who rents it? Government. So if it was a completely independent judge or something like that who ran it, you might think, right, this is worth the shot, because they basically, if it's a contract, they've broken the contract straight away. But we can't be sure that it will be independently looked at.
Any other comments from anybody? Okay, so I think we had a proposal for Councillor Cummings to write a letter, a seconder from Councillor Yelland. All in favour? That is everybody. No abstentions, no limits. One abstention, sorry, Councillor Leach abstains. Thank you.
Can I ask, please? Thank you. Who will be writing to, and do you want to see a draft, or are you happy that I write it with the mayor, the deputy mayor, somebody else, and send it, or how do you want to go about this?
Councillor Richardson.
May I suggest that we write to the current Minister of Local Government, as this is the person who issued the instructions which have not been followed.
Okay. Councillor Young.
Within those circumstances, I have to copy our MP in, because you can only run an MP can deal with what's in your particular area. And I would also suggest that it's copied into the legal of the two respective sort of West Devon and Devon County.
Okay.
Because we're not doing judicial review ourselves, so it's we have to word it a little bit carefully, otherwise we don't sound like we are.
And do we have a comment about who would like to formulate this letter with the town clerk? But in my view, I'm thinking that Councillor Cummings and Councillor Young, who are the ones who kind of got perhaps the knowledge, insight, and the wording for what. So would you be interested in putting that together with the town clerk? Councillor Young, do you like to?
I've got a very reliable source on the information sitting next to me.
I mean, I'd be happy to do so, but can I, in terms of the original proposal, and I understand Councillor Richards is saying about writing to the Minister, but I would be more inclined to write to the leader of Devon County and West Devon, who perhaps copied in to the Minister. So we're advising Devon County that we would, that they, not the financial support, the wording's got to be right, but that we don't agree with the decision that's been made, and we believe that there should be a judicial review, and that we would like this letter to be treated as our support for that judicial review. So we are going through and providing that evidence to Devon County, who presumably would need to be the lead on this.
Okay, so can I say to Councillor Cummings first, with your proposal, are you happy with that? And then can you put on your microphone and give me a response?
You've got
Can you put on your microphone, please, Councillor Cummings, just so that people can hear you? Thank you.
my proposal was to write to the groups that are proposing to raise a judicial review and show them the support of the local area. In that, we can copy our MP and copy the leaders of both West Devon and Devon County. But I think it's Devon County that are proposing that we should challenge to a judicial review, and there's a number of other councils that have joined with Devon County Council. So I think we should be writing to them to say that we fully support and endorse you taking out a judicial review, and to let them know that the areas around our town are also in favour of this route. And that way we're just showing our support. We're doing everything the best way without committing ourselves to a financial implication.
Okay, so that's okay. Councillor Richards, you want to
Yes, I'm sorry. I totally support what is being said. I totally understand why it is being said. But I feel under those circumstances, please would the council consider writing directly to the Minister for not to even mention about judicial reviews or anything in a letter to the government, just that this council expresses its dislike, its displeasure at the nature of the decision that it has been arrived at, as we do not consider this to be in the best interest of our electors, so to speak.
Okay, so I think that's a different proposal for
Yes.
a different letter. So we've got a seconder for that proposal. Councillor Fisher seconds it. All in favour? Okay, that one. So all in favour, we've got, do you print that in order if you want me to?
I can't see
4,
that.
5, 6, 7 in favour. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, you in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in favour. Any against? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions. No against. 2 abstentions. Okay. Oh, thank you. I don't know if we got to the bottom of who was going to write it. Were we happy that?
We're all right on the numbers there.
Okay.
Because I think there's 12 of you. I can't see them.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, we're just yeah, no, we're only 11.
There are 11 of them.
Yes, there's only 11.
So I can't see them.
Yeah. And did we confirm that Councillor Cummings and Councillor Young were happy to pull together that letter with the Town Council? Okay. Okay, moving on to, and also for the second one, Councillor Richard, you wanted to be, okay,
Yes.
so
We'll-
the second
we'll do
letter,
that.
Councillor Richard and Councillor Cummings. Okay, 10.2, community governance boundary change. To resolve that the draft order provided by West Edinburgh Council is consistent with the outcome of the review. Is that in our notes? Yes, and that's in our notes.
Well, I have no notes sent separately on Friday.
Oh, sorry. The people who got that was sent separately on Friday. So do I have any comments? Councillor Lynch.
Again, I'm on West Gate, but I would like to say the legal officer who's been trying to put this together for some months has been extremely busy with everything else that's been going on, and I'd like to thank her very much for actually giving it to us this month.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lynch. Anybody else got any comments? Councillor Richards.
Yes, I was understanding the town clerk was, it was either I or the town clerk who would say something on this matter.
I thought you were talking about neighbourhood plan, were you?
Yeah.
This is the boundary.
This is
Oh,
the
sorry,
boundary
sorry.
Sorry, community governance boundary change,
Apologies.
and it's a different document that was sent. Has anybody got any comments? So we're resolving that the draft order provided West Edinburgh Council is consistent with the outcome of the review. So do I have a proposal that you're happy to resolve that? Councillor Cummins? Councillor Cummins proposed, I have a seconder. Councillor Fisher, all in favour? And that is everybody. No abstentions, no one against. Thank you. Okay, 10.3, neighbourhood plan. Consider progression of the plan and if required, the draft application statement. So that is on your report notes.
So,
Yes, please.
the last application was turned down by West Devon because they felt there were some areas that needed clarification. They wanted it directly from the hamlets that they were happy for us to include their land, well, it's land that will be coming to the town next year. So we now have to resubmit an application if you still want to go ahead. And this is that draft application if you are happy with it, which I believe addresses the queries that were raised by West Devon.
Councillor Cummings?
I'm quite happy for this to move forward, seeing as I was the one that put in the original one. We need to get something moving on that, just to start the process. With relation to the other plan that they're looking at launching, I understand the need for it, I just don't understand the expenditure of it, especially at the time where no one's particularly sure what areas of Southampton, where the cut-off points are in the Southamptons. That will affect this plan, and the knock-on effect of that will have a knock-on effect to our plan, because we have to work within the guidelines of that original plan. So I do have some concerns about that. I've not studied the Dartmoor plan, but the Dartmoor plan will have implications in some areas possibly that we need to look at as well. So yeah, we need to move it forward, so I propose that we submit that.
Okay, and do we have a seconder? Councillor Richards, all in favour? That is everybody. No abstentions, no one against. Thank you everyone. Okay, 10.4, Emerging Dartmoor Local Plan 2026. Consider a response to Dartmoor National Park scoping consultation which closes on the 23rd of August 2026. And again, that's in our notes. Do you have any comments on that?
That's only a brief overview. I have got Councillor Marsh gave me today the whole document. If anybody wants to look at it, it's rather a big document. Councillor Marsh has a
Councillor Marsh, sorry.
I went to the Dartmoor National Park Forum on Friday, and a good half of it was taken up with the importance of consulting on this local plan. And we are recognised as the gateway market town and the gateway northern town for the North Park Forum. So I don't think that we respond in some way or other. And that's why I thought we look the councillors wanted to go into the office and have a look. Make some comments or recommendations. I would please take.
Okay, thank you. Do we need to make a decision on this, or is this just a consider a response?
If you want to make a decision on the council itself wants to make a decision or a comment, then yes you will. But if individual councillors want to do it as individuals, then no.
Councillor Cummings.
I think it's important that we give feedback, but given the dates that are there and the complexity of the document, we wouldn't be able to, unless we organise a special meeting of the council, to put a council response in time. So I think that we need to do it on an individual basis, but as councillors, not as the layperson, but as a councillor. I think if we don't show the support and raise the areas of our concern, we're failing ourselves. So we won't be able to, we'd have to organise a special meeting. And that's my understanding. I don't know how the council feels.
Have you got any comments or responses to that? Councillor Ireland.
Yes, I would
Can
agree.
you switch on your microphone?
Sorry.
Thank you.
I would agree with what Councillor Cummings said. I think it'd be remiss of us not to make a response maybe as individual councillors, because as having written earlier documents, it's important. It looks like, I haven't seen this document, it looks like Oakhampton has a more prominent place than it used to do. Is that right, Councillor Marsh? So this is the impression I got, and from that point of view, I would agree with Councillor Cummings that we really need to look at this, and I and myself will do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Richard.
Sharp intake of breath when my esteemed colleague said we like to councillors. I think we would not be able to do that, because if we were to say we are a councillor in this situation, we would be, so as to speak, pledging the council as a whole. I regret we're not in a position to do that on a town council, town or parish council. We can't do that. So although I would, I'd love to, we're not. I don't believe we're allowed to do it.
I would agree with that really. If you're going to respond, it should be as an individual, not as a councillor, because you could be sending back mixed messages for one.
Okay. Unless tonight, I don't know, well, I suppose people haven't had time to read it through, and I don't suppose we will have time before the 23rd of August to consider a joint response. Is that the general view? Councillor Marshall.
Maybe councillors would like to just send in their thoughts and then we correct them.
That's a very good point. Yeah. So let's do it that way. So people who can read the report and then send in your comments to the town clerk, and then she can collect those together, and then that can be our joint response together. Councillor Leach.
How did you propose that?
Okay, thank you. There's a proposal, seconder. Councillor Cummings, on favour? That's everybody.
Was that Councillor Cummings who seconded?
Yes.
Can we put a date on that then, please?
So, what's helpful for you?
Can we say by the 15th?
Okay, so if everybody can get their response in by that's Saturday the 15th. Saturday,
Or say Friday the 14th.
Friday the 14th. So Friday the 14th of August, have your comments in, so then we can collate it and send by the 23rd, which is actually Sunday, the last one. Okay, thank you. Okay, point 11, policies and documents to resolve to approve the following documents as recommended by the Policy and Resources Committee. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 policies altogether. So if people are happy to propose them and second them, unless anybody's got any comments, Councillor Martin and Councillor Leon.
I'm sorry, but I do them.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. This is why we're here.
Not being on the Policy and Resources Committee now, I guess they have made some adjustments on some of them, but the main one I'd like, first of all, is the allotment policy one. There's a couple of things in there, dare I say, Councillor Coffey has mentioned a few of them that I was going to say I support her on the proof of insurance one, which is the top of page 3, I suppose. At the very top where it's highlighted in yellow. Also the charges, like a bit of clarity on the key deposit, if applicable. Are we talking about a key deposit for the water, or are we talking about a key deposit for the gates? That's one thing there. Councillor Coffey's mentioned about the water and clarification on that, so I won't go back into that. Under allotment plots, it says about keeping it in good state of cultivation and free from weeds, and the pathway should be kept clear. When I was on the Accounting United Charities, we did have an agreement with the allotment holders that they would look after one side of the path. I think it was the right-hand path to their allotment plot, but I understand that now that it's halfway between the path for each plot. So I think we need some clarification on that so that the allotment holders know that. Also, following down, there is the following prohibited things on the allotment at any site. any material not connected with cultivation of the allotment. That's not fair on the prohibited bit. And the policy does not necessarily agree with some of the things that are in the allotment agreement. When you've got the use of chemical sprays and fertiliser, they need to have leaf killer down for storage of the pesticides and other potentially toxic chemicals. Then, under areas and structure, Councillor Goffey had mentioned a few things which I agree with, but also on the last paragraph, that when tenancy agreement is terminated, the tenant will be required to move all buildings and structures from the plot before it's reallocated. But on 6.9 of the agreement, it says all sheds, greenhouses and equipment must be removed from the site unless purchased by the incoming tenant. So that's contradicting itself there. Carrying on from there, plots will be inspected at regular intervals to ensure they are active use and being cultivated. I think it would be helpful for the allotment owners to know what sort of regularity that would be, whether it's likely to be monthly, every other month, 6 monthly, or something like that. Cancellation by the tenant. The tenant wishing to cancel their tenancy agreement should do so in writing to the town council. The town council will not refund any rent paid in that year, but the cancellation is at the request of the tenant. And then below it says the town council has the right to terminate the tenancy agreement where the tenant is in breach of the allotment rules, as agreed by the tenant when signing the tenancy agreement. Which do they get a reduction on it's halfway through the year or whatever?
It sounds like there's a lot of points. I wondered whether we...
Nearly at the end.
Go on, go for it.
No, that's fine.
Please do.
But unless you want to defer this particular policy,
That's what I was thinking, but
and I think it does need to be read in accordance with the agreement, because they do not agree.
There is a problem with delaying it in that we will almost be taking over the allotments by the time that can be agreed.
I was hoping that a lot of this would have been looked at when it was dealt with under policy and resources.
Yeah.
But obviously, either nobody has read it, as we know sometimes the councillors don't, or it just hasn't been picked up and it hasn't been done. So it's what do I do? It's the only place I can read.
Some of it I can answer is the bits in yellow haven't yet been fully agreed. So that would be when we're looking at leases and things later on. So you're talking the water and the insurance. The key deposit is for the gates, but we can add that in. The removal of the sheds is currently what is in the agreement from the allotment holders now. So we're not asking anything different, because currently they have to remove sheds when the tenancy ends.
Or
And
they take over.
at the moment there says it goes. We were thinking that it could be left in possibly, but then you raise the question of who is ultimately responsible for it at the end of the day. If the new incoming tenant doesn't want it, does that mean the council is then going to be responsible for removing it and disposing of it?
No, the agreement at the moment says that the tenants will have to that all sheds, greenhouses and equipment must be removed from the site unless purchased by the incoming tenant.
That is our agreement, not the current OUC agreement. So that the discrepancy there, you're right. But at the moment, they are required to move them because then there is a question of who becomes responsible for them and who is responsible for paying it. Because on one person leaving, you won't have actually got somebody else directly coming in. There's usually a bit of a delay.
These are both town councils.
Those are, yes, I've just said this.
So one is saying one thing and the policy
but
is
yes,
saying something
I
else.
didn't dispute that. What I'm saying is that the current agreement that the OUC has is that they are completely removed.
Enforcement. keeping the riverbanks free. Two of the sites do have a riverbank, so that's one. And trees. You mentioned about trees being important or small ones. I know for a fact that on one of the sites that they have trees growing in containers, but they particularly cut out the bottom of those containers so that it goes right down and they become then an established tree. And lastly, seeing as I've occupied, because Councillor Dockett mentioned the riverboat, is when taking on an unattended site, whether or not the council, it depends on the state of it, is whether the council will trim that site or whether they will give a discount to the tenant that's taking it on and they will clear the site. But then this is, there needs clarity for both us as the council and the officers who are dealing with it, as well as the allotment office, so that each person knows where they are with it.
What's the recommendation, Claire, for each?
Yes, I've been on the working party, working on this, and it's been quite lonely.
I couldn't join you.
Well, because anyone else is see. So, just going back to you mentioning riverbanks, so my memory is supposed to be right, riverbanks aren't in, because if you take responsibility for the riverbank, you're then responsible to the middle of the river. So that's not it. I'm looking at the
Share
card.
a little bit of clarity there. I'm not talking about taking responsibility of the riverbank. It's just being courteous and keeping the riverbank free of debris and stuff that I know they throw there, and they try to build up the riverbanks with weeds, sometimes flower pots. They want to get rid of them, so they bury them in there and all the rest of it. So it's not taking responsibility for the bank, it's just what is dumped there.
Okay. The other thing is, we're talking about all three being uniform. At the moment, there's different rules for different areas. This, when it comes to council hands, it has to be uniform. And that's what we've been trying to do. The person, which the clerk's quite rightly said, they still haven't been settled as yet, and especially with water, because we've got extraction licenses that take them from the river, whereas others got mains. The only one thing that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention, that was 11.1C.
Lisa's, we're going to be later in part 2.
No, this is just a point. So it says, ensure that property is at all times kept properly cultivated with spade husbandry, well maneuvered, free from weeds and noxious plants, etc. etc. There are quite a lot of gardens now who don't cultivate. They actually plant straight inwards before. Would that be contradicting what we want them to do?
Is that the lease?
That's on the list.
Yes, well, we'll have to go through that. We haven't been through the lease yet, that's all.
Yeah, no, I just thought.
Yes. Do you want to have another extra meeting then to discuss this? Because that's the only way we're going to do it with all these changes. I don't quite know when we're going to get that in August.
We do have another council meeting next Monday.
It's too late to get it together for them.
Sorry, councillor.
Can I suggest that I put these comments and give them to the clerk and the chair of policy and resources look at them and see whether
Would that work?
Depends when we've got time to go through that, because I know we've got some other things to do on days when the chair of PR is free, and I've got some time off as well. so it's going to be later in the month before we can come back.
Councillor Young.
And I'm not aware of the last 2 weeks' numbers.
No, and well, I can't before then.
Can we make the changes that Councillor Marsh has suggested now? Because you've mentioned quite a lot of changes and whether we can leave that now. Councillor Leach.
I think that's going to be too long.
As Abby has done a lot of this work, and I'm still one of the members of the working party. If the two of us got together,
Okay, yeah. So the proposal is that Abby and Councillor Leach come together with the changes that Councillor March is asking for, and then pull together and rewrite some of the policy. Councillor March.
Before I was on the working party, because I was a trustee of the charity run the land, and then on the round I'm the town councillor, so I've offered to sit on the working party with Councillor Leach.
Okay, so is that something that we can change now, so then this work can be done?
She can certainly join that group to
Yeah.
look at that.
So that sounds like it's a good solution. So then if you pull together, finish it, change the policy, and then that could be then agreed when,
We're going to have to have an extra meeting.
so then have an extra, slot in an extra meeting for PNR, that will only be open a very short
It
one.
will just be this whole council that will need to be, not me.
Okay. Okay, is that everybody's in agreement with doing that? Okay, Councillor Richards, I mean Councillor Ireland.
No. I was going to
You're
own
gonna-
it.
Councillor
I was second
and then Councillor Ireland second,
yes,
perfect. Okay, all in agreement? That's everybody. Great. So other than the allotment policy, how is everybody with all the rest of them? Councillor
Just a very small one.
and just give the mic again, please.
This is very small. On the, sorry, thank you. On the expenses one, here it is, on page 3 of it, just a little bit of grammar where there's a piece of red in there and it says the council will pay you a mileage as set out by, instead of, what's been taken out of allowance, and it should be you pay a mileage allowance as set out, or or just mileage.
I think that was already changed to a PMA.
So the other one is, the last one, you'll be pleased to know, and you'll be pleased to know that I can read these things.
We're very pleased.
It's the Simmons Park policy, so there was a mention of it, number 5, about litter, and they will be charged £100 for anything, any waste on the site. Looking at the unicorn and the state from the cable that happened in there, do you think we ought to have a small deposit which is refundable rather than billing them afterwards? Because the fares, as you know, we hold a bond for any damage that they do and then they have it back. So it's whether we may have a small deposit from the higher risk in case there's something small that's happened. I'm not talking of a huge amount of money.
Okay.
Are you also including not-for-profit groups with that we wouldn't charge? You know, people like, you have the Bandemanium there at the weekend, and you have like the Rotary Fair and things like that. Would you be talking about all of those
Yes,
groups?
I think so, because if they're getting it as well, if they're getting it for free, then that's not a problem. But if we have to then pay to remedy something or other that could have been avoided,
Okay. So I think
I'm making more careful of what we do and we do with education.
So I think that's a proposal for amendment for that. So I have a second of Councillor Ireland. All in favour? Any? Sorry.
Could you please suggest how much?
And I was wondering something. I mean, we won't take it out of £50, no more than that.
Yeah. Okay, so the proposal, happy to second that. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? One abstention. Okay, Any other comments? Councillor Leach, you had your hand up for comment. No? Okay, can we have a proposal for the policies other than the allotments and the amendments? Councillor Leach.
Propose that subject to everything's taken on block.
Okay, thank you.
I'll
Councillor
second
Allen, second. All in favour? That is everybody. Thank you, everyone. Point 12, Finance Government to resolve, approve the schedule of payments. We've got scheduled payment in front of you for 27th of July 2026. Councillor Marsh.
I propose to accept them.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second
Second, Councillor Fisher. All in favour? That is everybody. Point 13, wider Oakhampton Cluster Group to receive an update following the training networking day on the 22nd of July.
So there were representatives from, I think, 6 other, including us, from 6 local councils, and there was about 15-ish in attendance in total, a mixture of clerks and councillors. Councillor Bird. Oh no, sorry, how's that? It was Councillor Coleman, Councillor Cummings, Fisher, Councillor Ricketts came along from Oakhampton, and I think we all felt it was useful and relevant. And later on, the group had a short meeting and agreed in principle that it would be nice to get together again to do something similar, networking training day, particularly after the elections in May, when we could share the cost of a new councillor, good councillor, of course, whatever they call it now in Hastebourne here.
Councillor Fisher.
So I attended, it was well worth attending, but I have to say it was death by geograph. And you couldn't read most of them, and she told you couldn't read most of them. That needs to be sorted out.
I fed that back.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ireland.
Yeah, suspend standing order if it's okay.
Okay, so that's a proposed to suspend standing order. Seconder, Councillor Leach. All in favour? Okay, so we have just one more. Is there any other comments about the wider Oakhampton Cluster Group? Councillor Ireland.
Yes, no, I just want to pick up on the point that's being made. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, just want to pick up on the point that's being made. It's actually, I think what you were saying, you couldn't read what was being presented. Is that correct? It was unoriginal. I mean, as a former university lecturer, that is really bad policy. You would not come to presentation with stuff you couldn't read. I mean, that just is ought to be corrected. So whoever, I wasn't there, I don't know who it was presented it, but their preparation obviously wasn't up to speed. So thank you for that, Councillor Fisher. I think that's awful. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, and then point 14 is the Mayor's Diary report. So although the Mayor's not here, I've heard that he attended the Pride Festival that was in the park a couple of weekends ago. Dropped into that. The cluster group, run by Dalk, he attended that. And also the Read Easy group he attended this past month. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to that?
No, I would just go back to the cluster group one if it's okay, and just say thank you to Doc because they did provide the training free of charge for the cluster group, and also gave us a grant of £50 towards the refreshments for that day.
Fantastic. Great. And that comes to the end of our agenda for this evening. So we're going to go to part 2, and the committee is recommended to pass the following resolution. Resolved that under section 1, brackets 2 of the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, that the public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following items, which are confidential by virtue of relating to legal and/or commercial matters, staffing and/or the financial or business affairs of a person or persons other than the council. But thank you so much, councillors, and the public who've attended. We really appreciate you coming. Thank you. So do I have a proposal for that?
Yeah.
And Councillor Ireland, second, Councillor Leach, all in favour?